Hello everybody, this is Kiereek here, and today we're reviewing Medieval 2 Total War. This is probably my favorite Total War game of all time. I played it way too much, and it's one of those games I think I really have an in-depth understanding of, so it's fun to talk about it. I'm glad to be able to talk about it. We are doing today the base game plus the DLC. The DLC is called Kingdoms. It adds some new campaigns, and I better tell you what this game is. It's a combination of turn-based strategy and real-time battles. So the turn-based strategy takes place in the overarching map. In this case, it's Europe and a little bit of Northern Africa, a little bit of Middle East. And when you do enter a battle, you actually go into real time. You select your units, you make them move to different places you want, make them attack, kind of like an RTS. The real-time map is more concerned with managing your buildings, moving around your armies to different areas of the map, and finances, things like that. Overarching management type things. Now, you need to take cities from other factions, you build lots of units, make improvements to your cities, you repeat. And that's how you conquer the world. I've played games where I take over the entire map. In vanilla, it's not that hard. I prefer the Kingdoms mod, Grand Kingdoms mod, whatever it is, and that adds way more map area, so you don't have to do that. Generally your goals are smaller, but for those hardcore totalitarian kind of people, you might want to take the entire map. So the pros, the battles are really fun. I really enjoy having command of large groups of armies, and you can set the scale. So if you don't have a great computer, you can have smaller groups of units. If you have a nice computer, you can turn it up and have tons of units. There is a limit to the engine. It can really only handle so much, but the battles get pretty big. I'm talking about 1,000 soldiers on the field at one time. The graphics are still pretty good by today's standards. If you look at the modern Total Wars, they really haven't improved much in terms of textures and other things. The new ones have a lot more effects on it, but it's not really necessary to enjoy the game, and I really enjoyed this one just as much. Like, it's easy to see who's who. You can see the little faces, you can see the little attack animations, zoom right down and see what's happening, and that's kind of all I'm really looking for in battle. The unit controls are by far my favorite. The engine that they used for this game, and I believe the last expansion of Rome Total War, is the same engine, and in my opinion, it offers the best control over your units. Now, in modern ones, I always find I'll click them to go somewhere and they'll do something really weird. Especially if I have multiple units selected, they might kind of spread out funny in a way I don't really want. In Medieval 2, I find they always react on time and accurately to what I want. Much better than the other Total War games. Now, the variation in units is pretty good. There are a lot of factions because you're looking at Europe. And you have all the Western European factions, Eastern European factions, North African factions, Middle Eastern factions, and then when you add the expansions, you get even more. So the variation, it's a lot of work to put in those kind of details, but every faction has separate units. A lot of them are similar. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of the European factions have the dismounted knight, and he's pretty much the same for all those factions, but they also have their own unique units on every tech level. So as you progress through the game, technology does advance, and you later get gunpowder, etc. But every faction does have a unique kind of flavor to it. For example, with the Turks, I really enjoy the ranged cavalry. And as I went on, you do sieges, you have melee units, and gunpowder really were effective for me. If I play as the Danes, I generally like to go kind of forego cavalry more and invest more in pikemen, spearmen, crossbowmen, and more infantry-based units. So every faction has a different way to play, makes it more enjoyable. The map is pretty nice. It is pretty accurate, and there's plenty of territories. Like I said, the vanilla map has less, but if you add some mods, you can get a much better looking, grander map. It makes it feel bigger. I played a campaign as the Turks where I took the entire world, and it took me about a year. And that's not playing every day, obviously, but it's really enjoyable when you finally finish that. Great sense of accomplishment. The UI is pretty good. It's clear, it's straightforward. There's nothing extra. You click your city. Okay, you got two choices: build buildings, build units. Nice. You click your units. Okay, you got a couple different choices for formation, maybe a choice to stop, a choice to attack. Pretty simple, and it works that way. No confusion, no misunderstandings, easy to learn. The AI is actually pretty good as well. On the easy mode, it's not too good. It kind of throws units at you. But on hard, I would say it's comparable, not comparable to a human, but pretty understanding of protecting its troops. Like, it will wait for you. It's got all day. If you don't set a battle timer, it will sit on top of the hill and be like, come to me, because it knows it has the defensive position. That's pretty smart. And there's no reason the AI shouldn't do that. I like playing with it on hard. The only thing I didn't really like is the hard on the map, not the battle part, but the actual map turn-based area. Sometimes the hard AI seems to cheat a little bit, which is okay, I guess. It's never too hard. Finally, there's a great number of mods out there for this game. You've got a Lord of the Rings mod. You've got a mod for like Asia and Middle East. You've got the mod that I use, Kingdom's Grand Expansion, and it just makes Europe better. Adds in all the extra factions from the DLC that are reasonable. So get out there and look for some mods if you get tired of vanilla. I highly recommend that as well. For the cons, the biggest con I have is the garrison script. In the original game, there is a script that if you siege one of the last remaining towns of a faction, they all of a sudden get this huge number of troops in that town for no reason at all. And I mean, when you are about to win that war, that's the last thing you want to see. It's unfair, and it really pissed me off. Look online, there's a way you can find it, edit it, and get rid of that whole debacle. Now, diplomacy and economy, I find the control on those a little lacking. Economy is basically based on your cities. So your cities have improvements, you build those buildings, you get more money. And the more expenses you have, like units, maintenance, things like that, that detracts your money. So it's very simple. And there's very little in the way of trade as well. So if I agree to trade rights with a faction, I get a boost in economy, but it doesn't seem to be all that detailed. Now, the democracy suffers the same fate. Unfortunately, you open a democracy kind of window with your opponent by sending them a diplomat, and you don't get many choices. You can't really make alliances against someone very easily. The computers aren't willing to really team out with you very well. I've had teams that have lasted quite a long time, but in the end, they'll turn on you. It's unlikely that they will finish the game with you as an ally. Okay, one other pet peeve of mine. If you change the settings when you start your campaign, that you watch the AI when it's not your turn, you will see all the shit they do. And that sucks ass. It takes forever. I highly recommend you don't turn that on because there's no way to turn it off once you're in game. You've been warned. Okay, sometimes when you are in a tight space with units, they position a little oddly. So I'm talking about defending like a gate to a castle. It can be difficult to kind of arrange your units in front of that gate. And as a result, sometimes things go awry. But you can kind of get around it with some interesting positioning. Try to chokehold your opponent, force them into that little tiny spot, and then slaughter them. But it can be difficult, and units aren't always cooperative. Okay, I've talked enough. Let's get to the score. For gameplay, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 3, mostly because I find it's very intuitive, it's very easy to learn, and it feels right when you're controlling the units. There's a couple of hiccups I mentioned with small spaces, but generally, if you tell them to go somewhere, you tell them to do something, they do just that. You double click to make them attack, they will charge your opponent. You single click, they walk. It's simple, and it's easy to control, feels right, and in general, the control aspect really gets me on gameplay. So when I can choose something and I want something to happen, if I can really make that happen the way I want it, that's a good gameplay design. There's no flaws in that system. For addiction, I'll give it a 2 out of 2. It's a turn-based game, and you know my saying with turn-based games, just one more turn. You will keep doing that. I just need to go a little bit further, one more turn, and eventually you spent the entire night. And the battles as well, they take a while, and it kind of adds to that. So you start a battle, and it might take an hour. I've had battles that go like an hour long, and that's a little frustrating at times, but it adds to the addiction. You need to sit there and see that battle through. That's a 2 out of 2, good addiction score. For reliability, I've never had an issue with the vanilla game, 1 out of 1 for me. If you do start to mod it, I've had a couple crashes, but nothing serious. Very rare. For atmosphere, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 2. It does feel correct as a military war game. The only reason I'd say I took points away for atmosphere is that on the main map where you're controlling your cities and move your armies around, it feels disjointed sometimes, and the weird kind of things, the little breaks in logic, like the AI declaring war against you for no reason, the horrible flaws of like, oh, I have a vassal and this guy attacked my vassal, he was my ally, why would he do that, kind of thing. It takes away from the atmosphere because it lacks logic. Games need to be logical to keep you immersed, and when something breaks that logic, even if it's just the game logic, I think that ruins the atmosphere a little. Finally, for replay value, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 2. There's plenty of campaigns if you have the DLC, and plenty of factions. They play different ways. The game usually works out kind of a different design. I've seen the Mongols take all of Eastern Europe and work their way into Europe. I've seen the Egyptians push through Africa into Spain and into Germany, all around there. It's incredible how many different ways the game can play out, and every faction you play as kind of has a different flair to it. Lets you replay the game many times. So a 2 out of 2 I think is a pretty fair score. That means our total score is 8.5 out of 10. Great score. I love this game. I highly recommend it. You can pick it up on Steam pretty cheap nowadays for maybe like $5 with the DLC included. I recommend you do it. I don't know if they still have online capabilities, but even if they don't, the single player is more than enough to keep you busy, and it's worth that money. Thanks for watching, guys. There should also be a gameplay portion up. And this has just been another entry in the review and release series. I got more of them. You should watch them. But thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you again soon.